KPRC2 Investigates new series Pop Off Politics is back this morning. We're looking at big ticket items Houston City Council could pass this week and how they will impact you. Joining me now is KPRC2 investigator Mario Diaz.
Morning.
Good morning, sir. Yeah. Always a pleasure. You know, when he got here, he's like, I'm not talking about Pappas today, though, am I? Because we're always talking about it, but that's...
And I worked late last night,
yes.
So I had a quick turnaround after the 10 o'clock news coming in this morning very early.
We appreciate you being here early. I love this segment. It's all about the agenda. What is on tap this week?
Well, you know, what's interesting about this is that, you know, we talk about city council in the city of Houston. That's what we're really focusing on here, okay? And every week, in case you didn't know, they get together. On Monday, they'll give the agenda items. Well, actually, they come out on Friday, but on Monday, that's when all the city council members and their staffers get the information about what's being on tap this week, right? On Tuesday, they come together. They let the public weigh in on what the agenda items are. And then on Wednesday is when they actually listen to it and they vote, the city council members, and they'll discuss it. So agenda item 14, Zach. That is what we're looking at this week. Here it is, okay? $1.6 million for Middleton and Brown LLC. Emergency Waterline Inspection Services. Houston Public Works Enterprise Fund. Now, I see your eyes, Zach.
Right.
And Zach is saying to himself right now, he goes, wait a second.
It's like deja vu.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Because if you remember, last week we had agenda item number 8. We're going to show you what that looked like, okay? It was for $876,000 to Omega Engineers for the exact same thing here, okay? Emergency Waterline Inspection Services, which makes one wonder why back-to-back weeks and how come there is a difference in the money, which is what we obviously asked Houston Public Works about. And they are just saying that this is just what's happening at this time, and we're trying to deal with it.
And that totals what? More? What was the first one? 1.6?
I'm sorry, hold on. It was 1.6 and then 2.4.
Yeah. It's a lot of money. Real quick, why don't we tell our viewers what happened last week with item 8?
Okay, so item 8 last week, that's the original one on this. It got tagged.
Okay.
So tag at city council means that, hey, I'm a city council member. Zach is saying, hey, you know what? I'm just going to tag this. I have questions.
Right.
So they kick it down the road for the next week. And they'll investigate it, meaning that council member.
In the interim, they'll be looking into it, yeah.
Exactly. And then they'll take a vote at it the following week. Now, if there was another council member that wasn't there last Wednesday, they can tag it again this week and kick the process down even further.
How are they allowed a certain amount of tags?
Right. Great question. It goes to the point that if everybody was there, then it can't be tagged again.
Oh.
It has to be voted on, and either it passes or it doesn't. Or sometimes the mayor might say, I'll pull it. But that rarely happens.
Right.
So that's what's happening here. And I wouldn't be surprised in speaking with Councilmember Michael Kubosh about this. He was the one who tagged it last week. I wouldn't be quite surprised if this gets tagged again this week.
Right.
Because he had questions on this one last week. I know he has questions about what's going on with this one this week.
And that's why it's important to have those relationships with your council members, because if you have questions, you go to them, they might have the same questions, and that's where this tagging comes into play. Him serving his constituents or anybody.
Until KPRC2 Investigates started asking questions about this and really bringing it to some council members and saying, hey, what are these? Because we're trying to get the answers from the city. I mean, what Public Works is telling us
I was just going to ask,
Yeah, what they're telling us is that, you know, last week was for, if you remember, it says emergency waterline inspections, but for repairs, but we don't have anything that needs to be addressed right away. Now suddenly you have this again this week that says they have to address it, and this is for inspections tied to the repairs, okay? But it speaks to the bigger question that I've been talking to officials about overall with regards to our infrastructure and the water system here in Houston. It's old. Like real old. And because it's so old, it needs a complex strategy to truly maintain it, but address all of this in the right way. And they've been talking about this as old since the start of the century. We've known it's old for over 20 years. And what they said is that there really doesn't appear a complex plan to address everything if you're piecemealing this every week with here's 800,000, here's $1.6 million.
Short-term fixes.
Right. So and that's the challenges that people are looking at.
Okay, so let's talk about, and you know, before we move on, I do want to emphasize too, if you have a question at home, I'm sure someone else in the room or in the city is going to have the same exact question. Right. And I just want to hit home, that's how this all comes into fruition and comes to play, that if you have questions, you know, reach out to your elected officials, ask them those questions.
Or to us.
Or to us, or to Mario. I promise you, Mario will get those answers. Okay, remind everybody, if they're just joining us, this is our, second week of Pop-Off Politics. Right. Let's talk, you brought the agenda with you. For people not familiar, again, not a stupid question, what is an agenda?
This is it right here. 184 pages.
You smack somebody in the head with this, you're going to get in trouble.
Exactly. It could be a third-degree assault.
Right.
So the fact is that this agenda has several items here. Millions of dollars are going to be voted on this on
Your money.
And this happens every single week. Not only in the city of Houston, but in other cities around the state of Texas. And if you look at the county, it happens every 2 weeks with Harris County. But we're looking at the city of Houston because obviously it's the fourth largest city in America, and it's where we tend to live. A lot of the action takes place every single week. So we go through this agenda on Friday, just like council members are supposed to, and we start highlighting what might be a challenging item to examine this week. We want to have questions answered on this. And to the fairness of DPW, Department of Public Works. They did get back to me this week much quicker with regards to my questions on these emergency waterline inspections. And again, they're being tied to repairs. And as Councilmember Kubash told me yesterday, he said, why are we having inspections done after repair? Shouldn't it have been done right the first time around? So it's a fair point. You could understand it. But we want to examine these agenda items so people have an understanding. It goes before Pop-Off today, which is why we have the name Pop-Off Politics, which is where the public is actually allowed to come out and pop off, provide their opinion on an agenda item. And then the agenda will be voted on at tomorrow, or it will be tagged, as I indicated earlier.
Right. One agenda. How many items and how much money could be in? I know it varies, but give us the
now you're
spectrum
gonna put me on the
here.
spot. So I'm looking at an agenda. I've seen agendas.
Well, I know last week we touched upon this, so I wasn't sure. It could be hundreds, right?
Well, no, not necessarily hundreds. A million, in terms of money, it could be, without a doubt, it could be, I'm trying to find it could be millions. And we have that total. The total for this week, we have it right now. If we go to that graphic, there it is right there. $16 million plus from what we gathered very quickly looking out at this for this week throughout various departments. Last week, if you remember, it was just like $13 million, I believe it was, for Public Works. And this week, you have 33 agenda items. They're all listed right here, 33 agenda items. 33. I've seen some weeks where they have less. I've seen some weeks where they have more. I have definitely seen weeks where they've had a lot more money that was on the table in terms of discussions.
Mario. Always love having you on
pleasure.
the show. Thank you very much for stopping by. Remember, Pop-Off Politics every
Tuesday. Right here.
Right here on KPRC 2 Plus now. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
All right, anytime.